7 races down, 3 to go, and 2 drivers have established themselves as the dominant duo in the iRacing World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drinks Sprint Car World Championship. The defending champion Alex Bergeron finds himself in a familiar spot at the top of the standings with 4 victories so far. But his challenge for a 3rd straight title must go through a fellow world champion. Hayden Cardwell, the World of Outlaw late model champion, is a rookie in the sprint cars, but has been Bergeron's only challenger this season, finishing on the podium in 5 of the 7 races. The two of them have a 100-point gap to the rest of the field, but the series and their championship fight heads to Indiana's baddest bull ring, Kokomo Speedway, for the first time since 2019. Here, drivers will look to slide their way into victory lane and take one step closer to $10,000. Hello and welcome back to continue coverage of the iRacing World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car World Championship Series and the greatest show on virtual dirt. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, filling in for Chase Roudman, who is on location in Tulsa for the Chili Bowl this week, but alongside is series veteran Justin Prince, and Tyler Maxon is in the production booth controlling all the action. And Justin, after 2 consecutive races at brand new tracks of the World Championship schedule, we carry that on by going back to a track that hasn't been on the calendar since 2019. Bergeron will have the experience advantage here, but Cardwell is always quick on the short ovals. The championship then hangs in the balance, with 3 races still to go.
It's going to be an intense race tonight, to say the very least, especially with the pressure, especially with some of the mistakes that Cardwell had in the last race at Cedar Lake. As well, though, you have to keep in mind that Bergeron has a lot of momentum heading into the closing stages of this season. 3 of the past 4 feature races have gone his direction, and keep in mind, he's the only driver currently who has won in each of the seasons in the history of this series. He's looking to try and carry that momentum on forward into tonight and try and secure another championship in this series.
And so 3 races to go. Let's take a look at our championship standings. 10 points separate the number 12 and the 22 at the top of the standings. There you see 111 points then back to 3rd place. And Justin, it's been very consistent runs for both of those top 2 contenders as compared to the rest of their field.
Yes, indeed, and there was other drivers in the fight throughout the season. Nick Cooper at one point was in the conversation. Tim Ryan, of course, the inaugural series champion. James Edens, though, has gained a lot of momentum, and he's charged up the board to try and battle for a top 3 position in the standings by the end of the campaign. But as well, keep an eye on that relegation line. That was very tight entering Cedar Lake. Expanded coming out of it with Cole Newhoffen having a strong run, and he feels confident about tonight's race. Colton Davis, Rusty Kruger and company are going to need to get up on the wheel if they want to join the rest of their competitors in the top half of the point standings.
2 drivers to keep your eye on as well. Tim Ryan and Cameron Merriman, the only 2 other drivers to have won races this season. Let's take a look at our series schedule then, Justin, because we head to Kokomo now and 2 races left. And these are our traditional iRacing World of Outlaws Championship finale rounds. Williams Grove Speedway and then the dirt track at Charlotte. They always deliver championship fights. And, as we head into that final round on January 25th, it's all about the momentum that Bergeron and Cardwell can build up to that final round.
Indeed, and this is one of the shortest tracks remaining on the calendar. Williams Grove, of course, a very unique, characteristic type of circuit in terms of its shape. And of course, the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway is the natural finale for this type of racetrack and for series. It's going to be a competitive next couple weeks. And keep in mind, our 2 competitors up at the top of the board for championship points-wise are quick at all 3 of these remaining tracks, including tonight. Expect them at the front every single night, battling for feature win victories, to say the very least, for the rest of the season.
Let's take a look at our point structure then and see how these competitors build up their championship fight, because 8 points for each of our heat winners, and that comes down to just a solitary point for 8th. And then in our feature, 70 points for 1st. We then drop down in 3-point increments down to 10th place, and from 11th to 20th, those points drop off by 2. And Justin, this means we talked about the gap that the front 2 have. They are a perfect weekend away from the rest of their pack. I think that really illustrates just how strong these 2 guys are. They're both world champions, but only one of them is going to leave this championship with that moniker.
And we talked about heat points, Chase and I especially, and before Cedar Lake, they came into play with how things shaped out for Hayden Cardwell in the points deficit after he had to drive from 18th to 4th last round. Those points differentials matter in the end for how things fare with how Cardwell entered that round with a points lead. Keep in mind, 234 points are available still on the table for maximum amount of points for the next couple rounds. The question is going to be, which drivers are going to get which amount of points?
And so what are they fighting for? I said $10,000, but it's not just that, Justin. You've also got race winnings in every race. The race winner gets $300. And the important thing here is we aren't just growing virtual racing drivers here. We're trying to develop stars in the real world as well. Alex Bergeron, Hayden Cardwell, they both have real world programs that they're trying to develop and trying to fund. And that's where their prize money from this series is ultimately going to go.
It's been very competitive, and it's been important, as talked about throughout the season for the real world programs. Hayden Cardwell actually picked up sponsorship for his real world late model program in the past week or so. So each and every dollar that's won throughout these races and each and every dollar won throughout the championships helps a lot of the drivers hit their marks, as well as to be able to build up their programs and get experience in the real world. We've seen many of these drivers hit the track in the real world, such as Tim Ryan in sprint cars, as well as Alex Bergeron.
So qualifying underway, let's talk you through the event format once again. 10-lap heat races. We're going to advance 4 of the drivers straight into the feature. We then head to the consolations, which is effectively 2 twin B mains. From there, 12-lap races. 2 drivers in each of those will advance to our feature race, Justin, where 20 drivers will scrap it out over 35 laps, where caution laps do not count.
And that's why qualifying is so critical, especially with how close qualifying normally is for this series, with it being in many cases separated by about a tenth or two from the top of the board to the bottom of the board. If you don't get track position for that positioning to try and advance the feature race, it is very difficult to get out of the last chance qualifiers. And it's so vital, whether you're in the championship fight, whether you're fighting for different position for the championship standings, or whether for the relegation, to get the qualifying speeds right, to be able to carry pace around and make sure you're able to advance on through to that feature race.
So qualifying over, you see Bergeron in first, Cardwell all the way down in 2030, tapped the wall on lap number 2, and Cardwell, who had to come through the consolation races last time, has another challenge on his hands. Let's go ahead then and take a look at the starting grid for our first heat, where our series champion Alex Bergeron starts on the front row with Cameron Merriman, a race winner this season, next to him. Cole Newhoffen in the number 8 car is going to line up on the inside of row 2 with Alex Mulders to his outside. Nick Cooper in the 35 will be on the inside of row 3 with Cole Cabry on the outside.
Running at the grid, based out of Wisconsin, it's Ryan Mayer. He'll start alongside John Batista. The Ellington, Florida driver will to try and run shotgun, one of the 2 drivers who did not set a qualifying time for tonight's qualifying session.
So we're just moments away then from getting underway, and well, Justin, drama already started. Cardwell is used to moments like this. We saw this in his late model championship run. He had a few issues along the way, had to fight back throughout the course of the season. He's not going to be done just yet, despite the fact he's all the way down there in the qualifying order.
Yes, that's in regards to how things shaped up in the late models, and there was a point where it seemed like it was happening every single week where he'd have to go to the consolation race or had to come for the mid-pack because of attrition or because of incidents in the early parts of the heats. And part of that is just not hitting your marks in qualifying situations. It's important to be able to get up at the front and be able to position yourself in the best spots possible to run up to said front. If you don't position yourself well for a track such as this tonight, it's going to be very difficult. Some of the drivers I spoke with preferred a more slick track than a tacky track, but the first competitors are going to have to deal with that tacky track to try and get used to how this is going to condition itself in and work its way in from bottom up to top and work in the multiple grooves.
Bergeron and Caldwell were separated by just 1,000th of a second in practice. So this is going to be interesting. Bergeron with the opportunity here, Justin, to really start off his night in the best way possible.
Absolutely. Chance for maximum points right from the get-go for the heats. We'll have to see how things go for him up at the front of the field. Of note, John Batista not taking the green flag. 7 cars off and away for Heat Race 1. The iRacing World of Outlaws NOS Drink Sprint Cars World Championship. Already 1 car with contact. Nick Cooper goes around. He's shuffled back to 7th, while Alex Bergeron leads the first lap over Merriman.
That also checked up Cole Cabray. The top 4 have kind of broken away very slightly, and you can see that there. You've seen that number 71 iRacing.com machine that's trying to close in on the back, but you see this battle then in the top 2 positions, Justin.
Everyone trying to work in the cushion this time to start things off. Normally, drivers have been trying to work in the bottom. This time, Bergeron works in the bottom in 3 and 4, carries momentum, gains himself half a second on the racetrack. Currently on the bubble spot is Alex Smulders, while Cole Cabry trying to attack underneath him. The 211 up on the top line goes to the middle line. Merriman and company pulling away with 6 laps to go in the first heat.
Yeah, here comes that challenge.
Contact with the wall. Cole Cabry hit the wall. Cole Newhoffen, rather, hit the wall. He's been shuffled to the back of the field.
Cole Cabry is the one that's taken full advantage of that. Now tries to get up on Alex Smulders as well. Here comes, though, Nick Cooper back from that incident we saw very early on. The 35 car hasn't given it up just yet, Justin.
And Cole Newhoffen's car with suspension damage. He is struggling to get around the racetrack now. Cabry trying to hold on to the bubble spot with 3 laps to go. Goes for the slide for a bit of a buffer. He goes up to the top line. Crossover back contact with the wall for the 71. Move Alex Smulders up to 3rd again.
Watch for Nick Cooper here, though, Justin. He's riding that outside line, really ripping into the cushion and finding a whole heap of momentum. Round the outside he goes of Smulders up in to 4th place.
Back and forth for 3rd and 4th as the white flag is out for the first heat race. 1 lap to go as Bergeron leads by more than a second over Merriman. Here comes multiple cars into the fight, though. Smulders smacks the wall. Ryan Mayer now trying to get himself in the conversation. Nick Cooper now has moved his way on by. Checker flag, Bergeron, Merriman, Cabry, and Cooper move on.
Yeah, it's going to be Smulders, Mayer, Newhoffen, and Batista that miss out there. Big moves there from Nick Cooper, though, Justin. He had an issue very early on in heat number 1, able to get that 4th and final transfer spot.
Yeah, taking advantage of some of the cars as they were busy fighting one another to be able to just pass on by and zip on by. The difference ends up being about a full second between 4th and 5th positions. And what was an interesting first heat race tonight, Arjuna?
Yeah, very interesting, but we're already getting ready then for heat number 2. James Eden's going to line up on the pole position with Daniel Gow in the number 2 next to him. Logan Rumsey in the 41 will be on the inside of row number 2. Brett Wheeler in the 56 on his outside. Mason Hannigan in the 1X machine on the inside of row 3. He'll have Shea Paolo in the 21 for Elbows Up Simsport on his outside.
For St. Scott, he'll start 7th. He's based out of Clyde, Ohio for Elbows Up Simsport, while Colton Davis rounds out the grid for all respective drivers for Heat Race 2. He's based out of Broken Arrow, California. And Arjuna, first things first, your thoughts after the first heat race where a lot of the drivers immediately went up to the cushion rather than the trend throughout the season, which has been working bottom up.
I saw Cooper finding that outside line straight away. Let's see how the track develops, though, Justin. We have seen, like you say, a lot more drivers preferring the inside line, really trying to make that inside roll better. But track evolution, always very important. We get ready to go racing then in heat number 2.
James Edens has won every single season in his career in this series except for this year. He's been gaining momentum the second half of the campaign. He brings us to the green flag. We're underway for Heat Race 2 from Kokomo. As Edens works his way to the middle line, Gow quickly tries to work himself towards the middle of the pack. 3 wide for second already as Brett Wheeler tries to run the bottom of the racetrack. End of the first lap, sees Rumsey up to second.
Gow managed to get around the outside of Brett Wheeler. They're 3 wide as they exit the corner. Wheeler trying to hold on to that 4th and final transfer position. Here comes the challenge from Mason Hannigan, though.
The little Hurricane trying to fight as everyone moves their way up to the cushion. Colton Davis trying to slide his way up into the pack. Ends up losing momentum with Zane Scott. Top 4, all single file without Mason Hannigan now with a bit of a run. Coming up to 6 laps to go this time by in the second heat race as Hannigan forced to check up on the top.
Yeah, Wheeler's happy right now. He sees those 2 guys scrapping it out behind him. The slide drop trying to be thrown by Paolo. He checks up all of his momentum and now drops all the way down to 7th position.
Halfway this time by as Hannigan goes for the massive slider on Wheeler, nearly hits him. Not able to complete as that puts him up for grounds from Zane Scott. Now goes back for the slide back as Wheeler now is pulled away by nearly a full second. Zane Scott now into the conversation. He's talked about it in the past couple weeks, trying to take a more fun approach for this campaign. He's going to have to close up about 1.5 seconds in the span of 3 laps.
Those 2 sliders they both threw on each other has checked them up. Wheeler and Gow have checked away very slightly, and out front, Edens not having too much of a challenge from Logan Rumsey at this point in time. So Edens, who's finished 2nd place in the last 2 races, Justin, looked to start off this round in a very impressive fashion.
And he's been doing that with having the fastest laps in this race so far compared to everyone else. He's been up to a couple tenths of a second quicker. As the white flag is out in Heat Race 2, Edens leads by about a full second.
No,
Rumsey
Gow.
seconding. and Gow goes around from a transfer spot. Hannigan hits him. Here comes Zane Scott. Big slide from Powell on the bottom. Brett Weaver gets third, and Zane Scott, because of that mistake, moves on to the feature.
That was late race drama. Daniel Gow in the number 2 machine makes a huge mistake from third position. Zane Scott takes full advantage there, Justin, and wow, we were seeing a lot of slide jobs being thrown. I didn't expect to see that on the last lap of heat number 2.
Especially since he was in a comfortable spot by at least 5 car lengths. So it's Powell, Hannigan, Gow, and Davis who end up having to go to the LCQs, and this heat race is going to be a big one, Arjuna, coming up.
Yeah, Tim Ryan, your inaugural champion in this series, and the number 98 starts on the inside of row 1. JD Brown in the 114 to his outside. Braden Eiler in the number 5 machine lines up on the inside of row 2. He's got Austin Semmelman to his outside. Rusty Kruger then lines up in 5th position with Hayden Cardwell all the way back in 6th position, Justin. He's got a lot of work to do.
Rounding up the field for Heat Race 3 tonight, it's Lewis Hewitt. The Aussie looks to show what he can do. He was the other driver who didn't record a practice time, but recorded a 10.7 in qualifying for tonight's action. So the question mark's going to be, how does Hayden Cardwell approach this, as he needs to gain 2 positions in the span of the 10 laps to make sure he moves on to the feature race directly. It's going to be not as easy as in some other races, though, to gain some positions here, as we've seen.
But it's about championship points as well, Justin. Bergeron's already secured 8 points in that first heat of the night. If Cardwell gets into 4th, he's going to drop a further 4 points back. What can he do from that 6th position on the grid?
We'll have to see. As these drivers all set to go, Tim Ryan has been having a stellar season as well. As mentioned, top 5 in the point standings, looking for consistency, though, to close things out for his campaign. The heat race number 3 is off and away. Tim Ryan already up to the cushion. Eiler tries to work on the bottom of the racetrack. 3 wide for 3rd position as Austin Silman tries to squeeze his way up to the top wall. Hayden Cardwell with a massive slider to 2nd. Gets up to 4th instead. He's now battling for a bubble spot with JD Hollywood Brown.
Oh no, and he's almost made contact with Eiler in front of him. 3 wide, JD Brown down on the inside. Cardwell goes up to that high line, makes it work. He's up now into 3rd position, Justin. Hits the wall again, though. Cardwell loses a whole heap of momentum.
And the teammates nearly squeeze each other into the fence coming out turn 2 as Braden Eiler with the massive slider can't get there. JD Brown now drives on by. Massive checkup for Lewis Hewitt. That allows Rusty Kruger to get on by. Eiler's now smacked the wall. Kruger's now smacked the wall. Hewitt's also smacked the wall. The top 3 have now separated out. They're separated by 1.4 seconds coming up to halfway this time.
It's all about JD Brown versus Rusty Kruger, but don't count out Lewis Hewitt in the iRacing.com sprint car. If JD Brown and Rusty Kruger trip over each other in some of these slide jobs that are being thrown, Justin, that number 3 machine in the perfect position as that's Rusty Kruger straight up into the fence.
That's towards the battle going on for 5th position. Hayden Cardwell, though, in the midst of a slide job battle for 2nd, smacks the wall hard. He slams the right side tires, gets it back going as Austin Settleman now moves to the bottom of the racetrack. Hayden Cardwell, though, with the better run down the front stretch, moves himself firmly into 2nd with 3 laps to go, coming to 2.
And that's vital from that championship picture. That move was almost ringing of desperation there, Justin, but that 22 machine knows that these are championship points. He can't afford to be giving up right now.
And this would be 1 point difference between him and Bergeron so far on the night earned. As the white flag is out, needs some luck. Tim Ryan smacks the wall down the back straightaway. Ryan goes to defend. Cardwell with a massive slide nearly hits the tires. Checker flag. Tim Ryan wins heat race 3. Well, Hayden Cardwell moves on with Austin Settleman, and JD Brown holds on by more than a second, just about over Rusty Kruger.
What's it with these last laps here, Justin? Tim Ryan making that mistake and Cardwell almost takes advantage. So from that terrible qualifying position, Cardwell up into 2nd.
Drivers going to the LCQs, as mentioned, Kruger, Eiler, along with Lewis Hewitt. And heat race 4 expected to be an intense one as well, Arjuna. Many different drivers looking for redemption after last week here.
4th and final heat race is a go. Tyler Ducharme in the 25 machine for Slick Simsport on the inside of row number 1. Tyler Schell to his outside. Adam Elby for the 74 machine lines up on the inside of row number 2. He'll have Gregory LeMay on his outside. Kendall Tucker in the 00 will be in 5th position, and he'll have Dustin Griffiths in 6th.
Rounding up the field from Richmond, Indiana, it's Anthony Job. He'll bring the 7 cars amongst our competitors for heat race 4. from shotgun to the green flag. And keep in mind, Ducharme's been very quick in recent weeks, Arjuna, especially when the track has worked its way towards more of a fresher state. But Tyler Schell is trying to have a bit of a redemption race after his crash, battling for the race lead at Cedar Lake.
It's been an up and down season for Ducharme. You know, one podium, he might have hoped for a little bit better. Schell as well has had a very disappointing season, so two drivers wanting a bit more here, Justin.
We'll see how this fares out here, as this is the final heat race. 10 laps up on the board, top 4 advance. As Ducharme in control of the field, off and away, heat race 4 is green. And a good launch for Tyler Ducharme as Tyler Schell already moved to the bottom of the racetrack. Ducharme scrapes a bit of the wall. Tyler Schell up to the race lead in the Outlaws up Sim Sport car. Top 4 up to the cushion, trying to work the bottom of the racetrack as Dustin Griffiths, as LeMay is into the bubble spot after the first lap.
Yeah, Schell, Ducharme, Elby, and Griffiths, your top 4. That fourth position is where that main battle seems to be happening in these heat races. 3 wide as we exit the corner. Contact made between 2 of them. And who's that down the inside that's taking full advantage?
That's Dustin Griffiths that's able to take advantage in his purple and black car. He's now into the bubble spot. The driver that was making contact with LeMay, Kendall Tucker, able to drive on the outside, though, up to 4th spot. Right now, they're running 10.9s to 11-second lap times around this track. Griffiths trying to work that bottom still as Tucker goes in the drag race and squeezes on by, takes 4th away.
Watch out now, Griffiths is going to throw it back down to the inside. This is the 25 machine, though. Tyler Ducharme, who's trying to now fend off Adam Elby from behind. Look at the challenge, Justin, as Elby throws it to the high side.
And Elby really trying to work that cushion, trying to, for Elby, get his first victory in this series since 2018. He drives to the bottom of the racetrack against Ducharme. 3 laps to go this time as Elby moves up to 2nd. Tyler Schell, meanwhile, is checked out by more than a 1.5 seconds, back and forth. Here comes the slider again from Ducharme. 2 to go this time.
These guys are going back and forth, but right behind them, Kendall Tucker, Dustin Griffiths closing up as they battle as well. So watch out for this one. Kendall Tucker slides it around the outside, and Dustin Griffiths drops down to 5th.
Coming to the white flag this time, Tyler Schell is now pulled out by more than 2 seconds on the rest of the pack. Ducharme trying to hold on to 2nd for track position. Elby in 3rd, but keep an eye on the battle for 4th. One last chance for Kendall Tucker to defend over Dustin Griffiths. Griffiths not going to be able to slide up as the checker flag goes to Schell. Ducharme, Elby, Tucker will move on. Griffiths, LeMay, Job will go to the LCQs coming up.
Ducharme did a good job there to get back past the 74 machine. That gets some grid position for our feature race, Justin. Something that I'm sure the 25 will appreciate.
Absolutely, especially with some of the speed in recent weeks from him. Adam Elby, Kendall Tucker also move on. Griffiths, LeMay, Job will end up going to the LCQs. Speaking of which, those drivers are all set to get going. 7 drivers in LCQ1, Arjuna.
7 drivers, 2 advance to our features, and it's Alex Smulders who lines up on the pole position. He has Rusty Kruger on his outside. Ryan Mayer in the 915 machine on the inside of row number 2, and then Braden Eiler on the outside. Cole Newhoffen in the number 8 machine starts in 5th position with Lewis Hewitt, the Australian, to his outside.
Rounding out the drivers on the entry sheet for this LCQ, John Batista. Batista not at the racetrack, unfortunately, for him tonight. So 6 drivers will take part in LCQ1 tonight. And some of these drivers looking for limitation on mistakes, to say the least. Braden Eiler, he felt more comfortable on a slick track tonight, Arjuna. He's starting 4th in this one. Cole Newhoffen, he'll start 5th, looking to try and recover after he slammed the wall from a transfer spot. He felt this is one of his best tracks.
And we haven't talked too much about it, but relegation, top 15, stay in this series, Justin. You don't want to be those drivers who have to go back through qualifications. Newhoffen in 15th. I think it was Braden Eiler that was in 10th position. So there's a few drivers that need some good points as we go to Green Flag Racing.
Off and away for LCQ1 for the iRacing World of Outlaws NOS Drink Sprint Cars World Championship. Smulders with a good launch. Eiler already up to 3rd position. Side by side though for 2nd. Make it 3 wide as a big run on Kruger. Kruger trying to defend. One car spins half around. Ryan Mayer off and away. He gets shuffled to the back of the field as the race lead goes 3 wide. Eiler goes for the slight jump. Takes away 2nd. Kruger goes back to the bottom.
Alex Smulders around the outside, though, runs that wall. He gets a little bit of contact, but he'll inherit the race lead now, Justin. 3 wide as we look to try and sort out these 2 cars that will make it into our feature race.
9 laps to go in LCQ1 as Eiler tries to rip the fence. So does Alex Smulders. Kruger now moves his way up to the fence as well. Lewis Hewitt and Cole Newhoffen trying different lines in the middle to bottom lines. They fight back and forth. Hewitt just got hit by Newhoffen. Newhoffen's up to fourth, side by side for the race lead. Eiler moves himself to the bottom of the racetrack. Tries to carry the momentum next to the grass. Smolders though with momentum down the straight line. Goes back up to the cushion in 1 and 2. A bit more of a middle line this time for Eiler. Coming up to halfway this time by.
Eiler, the only car really committing to that low line. He'll slide up into the outside. He's going to block off Rusty Kruger here. Watch out as Cole Newhoffen as well, Justin, closes in on the top 3.
And Eiler now goes up to defend on the cushion. That forces Kruger now to go for the diamond line. Kruger takes away second. He tries to park the bus. Eiler goes to the outside. Back and forth as they tap tires. Eiler whips the fence once more. Kruger tries to give a bit of the squeeze down the front stretch. Coming up to 3 to go this time as Kruger again this time goes to park the bus. Crossover back from Eiler.
I'm just very curious, what's Cole Newhoffen thinking back there, Justin? He's throwing it down to the inside every single time. He's almost waiting for those two guys to make contact. Here he comes, in fact. Tries to challenge for third.
Both Kruger and Eiler tap the wall in 1 and 2. That opens up the door for the Maverick Simulations car. The 8 now works on the bottom of the racetrack, expecting the white flag this time by. Smolders holding on to a 4-car length advantage over Eiler. Will Eiler be able to hold on is the big question as they take the white flag. Smolders and Eiler work next to the wall once more. Newhoffen needing one more send. Eiler goes on the defense. He goes next to the tires. Newhoffen sends it hard. Checker flag. Smolders holds on. Eiler finishes in second. While finishing in third is Cole Newhoffen with Kruger, Mayer, Hewitt, and Batista going home.
Eiler was really committed to that low line, Justin. Let's see what happens now in our second of these B-main races. It seems like there are a few drivers that think that low line's going to work. Let's take a look then at the starting grid, though. Shea Paolo in the number 21 takes pole position in the second of the B-mains. Dustin Griffiths in the 9 machine to his outside. Mason Hannigan in the 1X machine for Black Diamond Racing on the inside of row number 2 with Gregory LeMay in the number 99 to his outside. Daniel Gow in the number 2 starts in 5th position with Anthony Job in the 91 in 6th.
Colton Davis rounds out the field in this last LCQ. Final 2 spots on the line. And Arjuna, as this track has really worked its way in, you can already tell that bottom line seems to be really working well if you set your car up and adjust your wing proper to it. But also the cushion has been really strong throughout the night so far.
We saw drivers taking straight to that cushion in heat number 1, Justin, but it does look as though cars are finding speed on the low line now. Interested to see how that develops in the feature as well. Interested to see as well if we even get a track reset.
It's going to be intriguing how this all plays out amongst these drivers tonight, as Shea Powell felt a lot of confidence about tonight. Dustin Griffiths will start alongside him. The Little Hurricane, Mason Hennigan was showing some great pace, as well as Greg LeMay in their respective heat races. Don't forget as well, Gow, though, looking to try and recover from his mistake before. Green flags out, off and away for the final LCQ from Kokomo. Towards the middle line, quickly goes Hannigan. Shea Powell tries to pull away from the rest of the pack. Dustin Griffiths side by side with Hannigan. LeMay works his way up to the cushion as the Little Hurricane moves up to second at the end of the first lap.
They're almost 3 and 4 wide for 3rd, 4th, and 5th as they try and fan themselves out. The top 2 favoring that high line, but here comes Dustin Griffiths down on the low line.
Griffiths trying to defend several different lines as Colton Davis has now jumped his way up to 4th. Hannigan's jumped to the bottom of the race leader, though. Powell working the cushion, middle to top line for Mason Hannigan. Side by side with the squeeze. 9 laps to go as contact for 3rd. Colton Davis slides his way into that spot. Side by side as Hannigan now works his way with the over-rotation, but still completes the pass for the lead. Contact in the battle for 3rd as they all crash right behind them. Buffer now builds up by more than 2 seconds as a result.
It's an entire straightaway between 2nd and 3rd. Shea Paolo, Mason Hannigan. All they need to do now, Justin, is take this to the end of the race. The 3 cars behind them were squabbling and got tripped up over themselves, and well, unfortunately, they've sent themselves out of the race for tonight.
And no joke, every single purple car or one car that had purple in it was involved in that incident. Mason Hannigan, 5 laps to go, looking to win this LCQ, is pulling away from Shea Powell. Anthony Job has the cleanest car, not inside the top 2 now, needs to close up 2 seconds. Mr. Famous right now running 11.6s, the leaders running 11.7s.
Take a look at the onboard shot on the right-hand side of your screen from Paolo. He's struggling right now. Tenths of a second slower every single lap. He was 4/10 of a second slower than LeMay the last time around. The number 99 has found a whole heap of speed, and Paolo in that second position, Justin, is going to come under pressure.
He is really starting to slow down. Lost 3/10 to Gregory LeMay, who has now jumped into that spot with 2 laps to go. Needing to close up a ton is LeMay after having a lot of pace in his respective heat race. Coming to the white flag, this time by Mason Hannigan, leads by 1.5 seconds. Powell continued to drop off the pace. Hannigan working the middle line, contact with the wall for Gregory LeMay. Needs to close out 7 car lengths in one corner. Not going to get there as Hannigan wins the LCQ. Powell moves on. LeMay, Job, Gao, Griffiths, and Davids will go home.
You know, I think Shea Paolo, Justin, is going to be breathing a huge sigh of relief. One more lap, and I think LeMay would have caught him there. Look at those deltas between second and third place, but ultimately, it's the 1X and the 21 that move on to our feature.
And you can see all those purple cars involved in some of the trouble. Gao, Griffiths, and Davis are among the drivers who got the worst of it. LeMay with a good recovery, though, from that up to third position, Arjuna. An entertaining set of heat races and LCQs tonight. The question is going to be, who will take home the feature race win and get valuable points for that championship scrap in the relegation line is going to be the biggest mark for tonight.
You know, 30 minutes, Justin. These World of Outlaws races, they just blow on past. We're done with the heat races, we're done with our B mains, and now we've just got the feature to go. You're watching the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car World Championship live on Dirt Vision. We'll be right back after these messages from our partners.
Every race live. The greatest shows on dirt from coast to coast, and now worldwide for only $39 a month. Watch the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars, the World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Models, and the Dirt Car Summer Nationals Hell Tour with one Fast Pass for only $39. Now, catch the greatest racing action down under with sprint cars, late models, and midgets from iconic Australian venues all year long. Live. Hundreds of races. One Fast Pass. $39 a month. DirtVision.com. Subscribe today.
Hello everyone and welcome back to round 8 of the iRacing World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car World Championship. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati. I'm filling in for Chase Roudman, who's on assignment in the Tulsa Expo Center for the Chili Bowl this week, but I'm alongside the series veteran Justin Prince, and Tyler Maxon is in the production booth controlling all the action. And well, Justin, that was a very interesting segment of the race. We had our heats, and Hayden Cardwell, really the story there. Disappointing qualifying, but makes his way up through his heat to get to second place, and as a result, he keeps that championship deficit at just 11 points.
It's still going to be very tight, to say the very least, where any mistake from either one of them could end up being the turning point for this championship. It's going to be important for both of them to be right on their marks tonight and make sure they make clean passes and clean sliders throughout this evening to have the best opportunity to come away with the checker flag. It's going to be where their pressure is going to be intense. You can almost feel some of that pressure starting to build in the air amongst some of these drivers.
We're just 2 races away from crowning our next world champion. Justin, it does not look as though we had a track reset in between our stages of the race, and that's going to be a big factor when it comes down to the lines that the drivers are going to be taking.
Absolutely, and both lines towards the middle to bottom, as well as the very top along the cushion, have been really worked in. Both of those lines have seen some entertaining battles, but also some good amount of momentum built up based on the preferences. But you can see with the live points as well, that 11-point difference. Keep in mind, the position battle is still very tight behind there. Kendall Tucker looking to try and build a buffer over James Edens, for example. Tim Ryan looking to try and claw his way back up to Edens. And you also have Eiler, who needs to jump up a ton of points to be able to get inside the top 9 and earn himself another few $100s in the prize pool. It's going to be tied around 6 on back, to say the least, after tonight.
And there's also, of course, the implications for the relegation picture. The 15 drivers that on top in the standings keep their licenses, and the rest of the field has to go through the qualifying procedure once again. But warm-up is just coming to an end then. Let's go ahead and take a look at the starting grid for our grid for the feature race in round number 8 here from the Kokomo Speedway. On the pole position, it's going to be Alex Bergeron, your defending series champion, in the number 12 machine. On his outside, James Eden in the number 52. Tim Ryan, your inaugural series champion, starts in the 3rd position with Tyler Schell on his outside. Cameron Merriman is going to line up in the 5th spot then with Logan Rumsey to his outside.
Tannen Cardwell, who will start in 7th tonight. He'll start alongside Tyler Ducharme. While Cole Cabry will look to power his way from 9th position tonight in the number 71. Brett Wheeler starts in 10th position, his best starting position in a feature race this season. Austin Settleman starting in 11th. Adam Elby will round out the top 12.
Nick Cooper's going to line up in 35. Watch for him, maybe trying some alternate lines. He'll have Zane Scott in the 37 on his outside. JD Brown in the 114 for Slick Sim Sports will line up on the inside of row 8 with Kendall Tucker, the 00 on his outside. Alex Smulders in the 211 will be in the inside of row number 9. Mason Hannigan in the 1X machine will line up on the outside of row number 9. Last row of the grid, Justin, it's Braden Eiler in the number 5 machine, and Shea Paolo to complete it. But my oh my, the challenge here for Hayden Cardwell from 7th on the grid to get up to the front and challenge Alex Bergeron.
And we've seen him go up double-digit positions in 1 lap last round at Cedar Lake, with how he was able to stick to the top and just drove around everyone. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to find one of those pockets again tonight and try and make one of those moves. Arjuna, who's your pick for tonight?
Well, Bergeron from the front's always going to be strong, but watch out, I think, for someone like James Eden. He finished 2nd the last time we were here. Bergeron finished 4th, so Eden's always a strong pick.
All set to go, feature racing from Kokomo. Green flags out. We're underway for the iRacing World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars World Championship Series. Bergeron with a great launch, off down the back straightaway by several car lengths. Cardwell amongst the Hornet's Nest in the middle line as Tim Ryan makes contact with Schell. That builds up a buffer for the rest of the pack. Merriman and several others are forced to check up as they're 4-5 wide in the heart of the pack.
Huge checkup, but Cardwell all the way up to 4th. There's 2 cars down his inside right now, but Justin Cardwell is already looking on the outside of the podium. This is exactly what the number 22 needed at the start of this race.
Still 3-4 wide in the heart of the Hornet's Nest as Cardwell's been able to drive by all of them. Cabry fighting hard, as well as Nick Cooper and several others in that mix. Tyler Schell's been bounced around, has already been shuffled back several positions, 5 spots lost. Merriman's also lost 5. Still 3-4 wide, all for the battle for the top 10 positions.
This is absolutely insane. Out front, though, look at Cardwell. Challenges Tim Ryan now for that 3rd position. Throws a slide job, but to the inside, almost 3 wide. Here comes Nick Cooper as well. So Cardwell now up to 3rd, Justin. And as the 4 wide action continues further back in your pack, Cardwell sets to work, hunting down Edens and Bergeron in front.
Right now, the gap is about 2.5 seconds. Keep in mind that Cardwell and Bergeron actually raced in an event in Dirt Midgets just earlier this week, and he closed up 9/10 and 4 laps. Can he do a similar mark in tonight in a sprint car? Trouble down the front straightaway. 1 car spun around. Caution is out. It's Alex Smulders.
The first caution on the night then. And for those who are new to World of Outlaws, Justin, remember, we freeze our lap counter now. We don't tick away any additional laps. And once we get back to green flag racing, then we start adding to our lap counts once again.
And again, the caution flag is for the 211 getting spun around, as there are several cars in the back half of the field who are bouncing off of one another. Brett Wheeler, who had lost several positions, got on the back end of Logan Rumsey, who spun around Alex Smulders in the pinball effect. That restacks up the field, and this is exactly what Hayden Cardwell needed to close up that gap easily. Now they're all bunched up and ready to regroup, as let's take a look.
Yeah, iRacing.com replay up on your screen. Smulders on that inside line, but it's the outside where the mistakes happen, and it's the 41 of Logan Rumsey that just makes that contact. Smulders, it does a little bit of a 360, Justin, pointed in the right direction, but here we go, back to green flag racing.
All set to go when the iRacing pace car drops off, pace truck rather, this time, as it's Bergeron up at the front of the field. Edens, Cardwell, Ryan, Cooper, your top 5. Bit of a checkup as they all run off the banking in 3 and 4. Green flags back out. 27 green flag laps to go as we're back under caution. One car in the back of the field got stacked up. Adam Elby got the worst of it.
Looks like Shea Paolo as well getting involved. We'll get that replay up on your screen in just a few moments' time. But cautions do breed cautions. Here comes that iRacing.com replay, Justin. And you'll just see here, Elby tries to go a bit earlier than that car in front. And unfortunately, Paolo as well really loses out.
Powell gets some damage, and that was Tyler Shell that he got into the back end of, and that regroups the field as well for another restart. And this track has really gotten more and more difficult to try and work its way around, it seems, as it's worn in, especially for some of these launches off the gun.
Well, we saw 3, 4, and 5 wide in that opening portion of the race, Justin. So really, it's anyone's game. You just need to find a little bit of momentum. That's all this is about at this point in time. Get clear, make sure you stay safe, and find the line that's going to build up momentum. Bergeron looks good. Edens tried to challenge him on that restart, but Cardwell, watch out for that 22 from 3rd position.
Of note, Adam Elby, letting by several drivers, has got himself a lost lap as a result of that incident, appears. Bergeron, meanwhile, he gets hit by Edens off the jump. Green flags back out. Clean start. Now 26 green flag laps to go. Already a slider for the race lead. The Swindell Speed Lab machine of James Edens not able to get there as Hayden Cardwell drives to the outside. He rips the fences. He takes away second. Half a second between your top 2 in the points as Edens tries to work his happy spot at the bottom.
Edens really committed to that inside on the start, and now look, he's going to lose out as Tim Ryan tries to challenge around his outside. But what did I say there, Justin? Hayden Cardwell, he's had a bad starting position, now up to 2nd, and sees his championship rival in front of him. Bergeron versus Caldwell. They've been the class of the field so far this season, and 3 races still to go. They're continuing to fight it out front.
The last time Cardwell won in this series was back at Fairbury. We mentioned Bergeron with his dominance in recent times. 3 of the past 4 victories have gone to him at Cedar Lake, at Lernerville, and at Eldora. Weedsport, of course, these 2 tangled up for position. Of note, Tim Ryan and Nick Cooper going back and forth. That's for 4th position. Right now, Cooper trying to work the bottom of the racetrack. Ryan's trying to work the top.
Well, Cooper was the first one to the outside line in heat number 1. Now he's one of the first to really send it down that inside. Watch as he tries to get all the way to the inside where that white tire sits. He's going to lose out here, though, in fact, to Cameron Merriman as well. Merriman, one of the only other race winners we've had this season, Justin, now up into the top 5.
And with the size of this racetrack tonight being just a quarter mile, that has opened up the door for lap traffic. Bergeron has already lapped Adam Elby again. Elby now in the bottom of the racetrack, as several others are going to have to deal with them. Merriman also trying to find a way around Tim Ryan up on the cushion. Majority of the field has worked its way around the top of the racetrack up against the wall. Traffic could play a factor for some of these battles.
We've crossed over the halfway point. Trouble for James Edens. Trouble for Edens as Ryan looks to the inside. Edens up into the outside retaining wall. And now Merriman as well tries to get the move done, Justin.
And that's opened up the door for the battle for 3rd position. Edens goes up and tries to defend. Ryan with the better momentum, though, goes for the slide up to the cushion. Edens goes middle line. Merriman tries to dive in the corner. He tries to get some moisture as he goes to the bottom next to the grass. Edens back up to 3rd, though. Ryan again with the boost up the middle. 15 laps to go as Ryan again slides it, parks the bus as Edens crosses him back over with near contact to the tires.
These guys are having a great scrap, but Bergeron and Caldwell have separated themselves out. Bergeron doing a great job through the lap traffic, and these 3 drivers are about to come up on that as Ryan touches the wall very slightly. That checks up his momentum. Here comes Merriman to his inside.
They continue to try and regather themselves. Edens has now regathered himself 5 seconds behind our race leaders, back single file. Ryan back on the cushion as well. Merriman the same. Tower Show has also recovered to 6th position after his struggles early on. Eiler's the biggest mover, plus 10 as we approach 11 laps to go. Of note, Alex Bergeron lost 0.5 of a second with lap traffic involving Mason Hannigan and Shea Powell. Hayden Cardwell is now coming in quick by a few tenths of a second, coming to 10 laps to go, this time by for the battle for the lead.
Cardwell hits the wall, though. More trouble. He hits the wall again. He's checked up behind Shea Powell. That's really compromised the second-place runner. There you see, though, the 85 of Tyler Schell trying to challenge Tim Ryan.
Still looking to scrap as Schell wheels it around and loses a spot. That moves him back to 5th. Remember, was up as high as 2nd at Cedar Lake, battling for the race lead before. 1 second is regathered for the race lead difference. Meanwhile, as the battle continues to go back and forth, for 4th position, 7 to go coming up as Tim Ryan tries to find a way to make sure he defends here. This is 6 seconds behind your leaders. They've lost nearly 2 seconds to Edens.
Edens is now running away with that 3rd and final podium position. Schell back down the inside of Tim Ryan. Ryan up into the wall. Yellow flag as something just happened to Alex Bergeron. Bergeron's down my timing screen, Justin. Hayden Cardwell now in the lead of the race.
And I think he hit a lap car. Zane Scott was up on his side as we're under caution, and that changes the complexion of this race. That was after Zane Scott made a mistake and ended up spinning around right in front of the leader.
And watch this replay. Cardwell moments from disaster. Bergeron gets caught up, and watch the 22 as he just slings it down the inside, Justin, and gets away. And this might be a turning point in our championship.
Now it's the matter of how bad is the damage going to be on Bergeron's car. His whole front end seems to be crushed in, as well as parts of the Nerf bar as a result of that. Cardwell was able to get by cleanly in that, and Edens, of course, had a buffer to it. This could be big for the complexion of all this. It's still Bergeron who would be in the championship complexion, but look at how tight it was.
Yeah, watch this onboard from Cardwell. He had nowhere really to even think about it. He just got lucky. Bergeron does appear, Justin, to be back up into 1st, so the timing of the yellow has saved our defending series champion. But we get ready then to go back to green flag racing, and he's got a challenge to deal with.
6 laps to decide it as Bergeron goes to the bottom. Cardwell tries to take away the race lead and does. Bergeron, contact! The points leaders go back and forth. Cardwell up to the top. Bergeron tries to slide it back up to the wall. Cardwell crossing him back with 5 laps to go. Back and forth as Bergeron goes back to the inside down the backstretch. Here comes Edens to take away the race lead.
These guys are fighting so hard that Edens wants to take his first victory on the season. Cardwell on the outside line, though, with that momentum. He's trying to fend off Bergeron and trying to build up the momentum to slip past James Eden in the 52 machine.
Cardwell, though, trying to rip the fence with 3 laps to go. Bergeron has dropped back to 3rd. Schell has now also entered the fray. Cardwell nearly over-rotates it. Bergeron rides up against the fence in turn 3 and 4. Bergeron smacks the wall. Tower Schell goes underneath for 3rd. Cardwell with 2 laps to go leads as Edens tries to defend, tries to finish up in the front once more for yet another race. White flag coming this time by. Cardwell leads by 0.4 of a second over James Edens. Bergeron tries to carry the bottom of the racetrack. Cardwell up on top. Everyone else to the middle lines. Checker flag waits up in the stand as Hayden Cardwell coming around 3 and 4 wins at Kokomo.
Famous victory for Hayden Cardwell there. That might be the moment where the championship picture turned. Alex Bergeron recovers to 4th position, Justin. But now, Hayden Cardwell back to the lead of the championship.
Wow is the one reaction I can have to that. Bergeron had a dominant 3/4 of the race, but mistakes in front lead to Hayden Cardwell being able to capitalize. He is your race winner by 0.8 of a second. James Edens comes home in 2nd yet again in the Swindell Speed Lab machine, while Tyler Schell rounds out the podium in redemption to last week. Bergeron and Merriman round out the top 5. Eiler, Ryan, Cooper, Tucker, and Cole Cabery round out your top 10 tonight, Arjuna.
and a third consecutive second place for James Eden, so close for the number 52. Tyler Ducharme then ends up in 11th with Semmelman, JD Brown, Logan Rumsey, Brett Wheeler all finishing on the lead lap. Adam Elby, Mason Hannigan, Shea Paolo one lap down, with Zane Scott and Alex Smulders not making it to the finish.
And what a finish, to say the very least, Arjuna. And you have to feel for Bergeron. He had a strong shot at taking another checker flag, which would have been his 4th in 5 races. But bad luck, unfortunately, strikes for him, and that could be, as you mentioned, a turning point.
And we'll get official confirmation in just a few moments' time, but with those swap around of positions and Bergeron dropping to 4th, I do believe Hayden Cardwell will be in the points lead by 1 single point as we have 2 races to go. You're watching the iRacing NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car World Championship Series on Dirt Vision. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue our post-race coverage right after these messages from our partners. Welcome back to continued coverage of the iRacing World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car World Championship and the greatest show on virtual dirt. For continued post-race coverage here live on Dirt Vision, we now prepare to talk to the podium finishers, because Justin Prince, that was one of the most dramatic races we've had this season and might be one that lives on in the memories as a turning point for the season.
Absolutely, especially with the closing stages there. You never know what can happen with lap traffic, right? And unfortunately, Bergeron ends up with that damage and gets shuffled to 4th. That could be the swing that goes back in the same direction we had with Cedar Lake as a result. What a finish, though, and what a drive by all our competitors up towards the front, especially for Cardwell, who had to recover from his mistakes in qualifying and had to go from 7th, and at one point was about a couple seconds back before the caution started flying.
So let's kick off then our post-race interviews with the third finisher in the race, Tyler Schell in the number 85 machine, who is now standing by with Justin Prince.
And Tyler, you're able to have a good recovery after what happened last week. First things first, how does it feel to finish on the podium today?
Hey, it feels good. It feels really good. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season that I would get a podium at Kokomo, I think you're crazy. But just battled back and kind of found that middle and just ran with it. I found it probably, 15, 20 laps into it and got up to, I think it was 4th, and then that caution came out with 5 to go, and just trying to make the best of it. Hayden and Alex are really going at it and just trying to keep calm and trying to pounce at the right time to get a couple spots.
Of course, you got bounced around a little bit there. How difficult was it, though, to be able to get those spots back, especially with how fierce it was getting, especially up on that cushion?
I just couldn't really run on the cushion, to be honest, in 1 and 2. So I just went to I tried to find another lane, and in a league race we did, the middle came in kind of there, and I was like, why don't I try it here? What am I going to lose? And ended up paying off for me, and glad I came in with the 3rd.
Now, of course, in the closing stages, 2 more races left to go. Williams Grove is up next. Your thoughts on that circuit?
I love that place. Rolling bottom there is I think my favorite thing to do on the whole service, and I'm really looking forward to it. I have that one circled off on the calendar every year.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time, Tower.
Yep.
Tower Schell, 3rd place tonight, Arjuna. Seems very happy, to say the very least.
Well, came into this race weekend in 8th place in the championship. So a podium position, exactly what Tyler Schell would have wanted. Let's move on then to the second step of the podium, and James Eden in the number 52 machine, who got his third consecutive second place finish. Justin Prince is standing by.
Yes, indeed. Another second place for you, James. Again, how does it feel to be just that little bit short of the checker flag as you're in the hunt to the finish?
It's disappointing. We definitely probably could have made a more aggressive move to take the lead there, but I don't want to wreck any of those guys racing for points, and or myself. So, but yeah, we just we kind of really didn't have the car to keep up with those two guys, under green flag laps. So didn't want to make any mistakes and cause them anything. So, but yeah, third, second in a row, can't be too mad about that.
Talked a little bit before last week about momentum, and the momentum's really building. One thing to note is if you're able to break through the victory lane, you'd become just the second driver to win in each of the seasons in the history of this series. Is that something you've been thinking about, or is it more towards just trying to focus on the points and lock in where you're at in the standings?
It would be nice to get a win, with 3 seconds and just, being there at the end a few times now. But, we're just more worried about, kind of locking in our place in the standings because, that's where the big money is at the end of the season. So just do our best and, maybe we'll sneak into one at the end one of these times.
Williams Grove up next. Your thoughts on that track?
It's fun. It's exciting. We had a really good race there last year and, I kind of snuck away with a win there. So hopefully we get to do it again next week.
Thank you very much for your time, James.
Thanks, sir.
James Edens, second place tonight. Once again, for the third straight week, Arjuna.
And I'm sure he doesn't want this to be the season where he doesn't take home a race victory in the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Championship. Let's move on then to our race winner, and who we believe now inherits the championship lead, Hayden Cardwell in the number 22 machine. And Hayden, it was a difficult race weekend in some ways. It was a very tough qualifying for you, but you managed to fight your way back. Talk to us about what happened in qualifying, because you were right on the pace in practice.
Yeah, the first lap, I thought I hit the wall down the front straight away getting into one, so I kind of just bailed out and went to the top there to get another swing lap, and had a pretty good lap going down. I don't think it would have been quick time, but it would have been a lot better than where we were at, and just 0x the wall at the line, so put us in a tough spot. It's definitely not making things easy for us, but we were able to crawl back from it, and what a race. That race was so crazy at the end. Sometimes you got to be lucky and good.
Talk to us a little bit about the first portion of the feature race as well, because you drove through the field, and just as you got up to the edge of the podium positions, the caution came out. Was that a crazy couple of laps for you, and did that caution help you kind of reset and work on those top three runners who had really been some of the strongest performers throughout the night?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. There early on, I was so tight on the bottom, and I knew I had to get to the top as soon as I can, or I was just going to get drove away from. So we got to third, and the caution came out really early there, and I was like, okay, maybe we can race with these guys. And, we kind of got into the second there, and was just a second-place car, and then all the stuff that happened with the lappers just opened us to get racing at Alex and put on a show there.
So 2 more rounds of this championship to go, Hayden. Just got official confirmation. You are still P2 by 2 points. So it is now back to the gap that you had just a week ago. But you're world champion already. You're the late models world champion. What do you think you need to try and beat someone who's been on the top of their game for so many years here in the sprint cars? Bergeron looking for his 3rd consecutive title. You are one of the only people to have challenged him this season.
It would start off by actually getting a good qualifying lap in and, not putting us behind. But just putting in the work again, 2 weeks left. We just got to knock these sets out the last 2 weeks and just get comfortable. Alex is, his baby's the Grove. So we're definitely going to have to be on top of it there. He's just going to dominate there. And hopefully we'll be close enough to him at Charlotte to put on a show.
Well, Hayden, you got to then go away, and I'm sure you're already thinking about the next 2 race weekends. Good luck then in your quest to become a 2-time world champion.
Thank you.
So that was Hayden Cardwell, your late model world champion, now trying to become the sprint car world champion as well. And Justin, Bergeron still holds the points lead, but it was a very close call. I can't even imagine what he thinks. We're taking a look at the points right now. 2 points separating first and second. Bergeron might be the king of Williams Grove, but as we saw today, anything can happen with lap traffic.
Yes, indeed, and unfortunately, Bergeron just got the worst of the luck there. He doesn't have that incident. He likely holds on and wins this race and ends up solidifying what would be a solid distance heading into Williams Grove. Instead, he's going to have to put in a ton of work with his respective crew to be able to keep the pace up. Now, everything else gets interesting, though. Take a look at how tight that Battle 6 on back has gotten, all the way to 9th. Separated by just 10 points for those positions in the championship, as well as the fact that with Newhoffen having some bad luck tonight and Smolders having some good pace in his LCQ, along with Mason Hannigan, those drivers are now in the conversation for the relegation line. So on top of that championship fight, you've got several positions, whether for various prize pool money or for trying to make sure their license is locked in, that are now going to intensify for the couple closing stages of this season. It's going to be important for those drivers, though, to be able to hit their marks there, because the track is such a unique one where, in several cases, the lines have been very critical for where and how fast you run.
Well, and we saw 3, 4, even 5 wide, so I'm sure that battle for relegation is going to be one that we need to keep our eyes on as well. Let's take one more look at the schedule before we say goodbye then live on Dirt Vision, Justin, because we are 8 rounds done with our World Championship right now, and it was a World Championship that got moved up in schedule, so it's now a 2020-2021 season. But Williams Grove Speedway, the dirt track at Charlotte, I've said it before just then, even if Bergeron is going to win at Williams Grove, given what we saw today, the dirt track at Charlotte is such a dynamic racetrack on the iRacing service as well. The championship fight is going to come all the way down to the checkered flag.
And that track, keep in mind, the dirt track at Charlotte, you will also likely see 2-3 wide action with many drivers trying to work in the cushion especially. But the importance of qualifying and limiting mistakes, as Cardwell mentioned, is going to be so critical for these final couple races. You make any little slip-ups, that is likely going to be that picture of that championship going out the window. In other words, biggest race of the season coming up.
A turning point potentially then. In round 8 of the iRacing World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars World Championship, contact with lap traffic for the defending champion Alex Bergeron allowed Hayden Cardwell to recover from a disappointing qualifying performance to take the race win at Indiana's baddest bouldering and close in that championship gap. We have 2 races left to go before we crown a world champion, and Alex Bergeron has a challenge in his quest to claim a 3rd consecutive title. We'll be back in 1 week's time from the Williams Grove Speedway when Chase Rowdman will be back in the comms box. But for now, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. I've been joined by series veteran Justin Prince, and Tyler Maxson has controlled all of the action. Thank you for tuning in live on Dirt Vision. We'll see you in 1 week's time for more virtual dirt racing on the iRacing service.